Hi, Brett and Sally. I hope you guys are well. A little background on my situation. I met my girlfriend down south in July 2020, but moved to a major northern city about 9 months ago. 9 months into our relationship. That's April of 2021. We've been doing long distance and see each other when we can, but it's really starting to tear me apart. The hope was when I moved that she would follow at some point, but that's currently out of the picture as she's looking to move to a different city. I enjoy my job and like the city, but I've come to realize it's just not the same without her here. At some point, a decision will need to be made whether I stay here or follow her to wherever she ends up, because I don't see myself handling long distance for years to come. Basically, my question is my current career or my girlfriend? Yikes.
Um, oh man. Okay. Okay, they've been dating for a year and a half, more than a year and a half, almost
Yeah,
2
so
years.
July of 2020, they met.
And they've been a long
Yeah, so
distance
basically, yeah.
relationship for a year now.
Yep.
A long distance relationship suck. I mean, it is what it is. I, both of us have experience with them,
Pro at this point.
and there are upsides because I think that like every time you get to see each other, it's like a little mini vacation, but
Mhm.
it's really hard to move into the next stage of your relationship, which is like living everyday life with somebody, even when you've been together for a really long time and like you've spent a really large chunk of time with somebody.
Totally.
That being said, I when I was in a longer distance relationship, I got into one knowing that
Mhm.
like there would be an end point, like that I would be done with school and move in with Will and we would,
Yeah, there's
so it's really, really difficult to be a part of a long distance relationship that has no end point in sight.
yes.
And that can be really frustrating and really wear you down. And I think that like the only thing that got Will and I through that stint was like knowing that there was going to be an end day to
Mhm.
it. And
Now, did y'all discuss that? Was that inferred? Was that verbalized? Like, how did you know that that was the case?
because so we were long distance when we first met because I was in Houston, he was in Austin.
Mhm.
And then I was still planning on going to school at that point. So, but it was like in the future.
Yeah.
Then we had dated. I moved to Austin probably 6 months after we started dating
Okay.
for the interim. And then I went to school. So then when I was in school though, it was going to be 2.5 years in Fort Worth.
And you kind of that's excuse me. That's the date that it sort of ends,
Right.
right? Or at
So
least that's the
before I
date that a decision will
moved,
happen.
and at that point I knew that we were going to get married. So it was like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to do this. And then when we're done, we'll be engaged and all that other stuff. And it ended up being less time. Ended up only being a year apart instead of 2.5 years, which
Okay.
was nice.
Mhm.
Um, but like I remember moving and being like, okay, like December 2019, we're gonna be back together, like for real.
Mhm.
And it came, August of 2018, thankfully. But that gave me like an end in sight, like something to work towards, even though it felt really far off.
Mhm.
Um, and not, I don't know. With Will, I think I was so sure that I knew eventually one of us, had I not been in school, like we would have been married already. You know what I'm
Gotcha.
saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's really difficult to tell this person what to do. It's like if you hadn't moved for your job, do you think that like y'all would be married? Do you think that y'all would be starting a life together or would you just still be like dating? Because if this is the person that you think like I'm going to marry her, then you need to make moves to be with her.
Mhm.
If you think and it's okay to like care about your career and
Mhm.
still want to be with somebody
Sure.
and still want to marry them. And if you want both of those things, that's okay. You just need to make some sort of like 2 or 3 year plan of like when are we going to end up in the same city.
Mhm.
But if you're like not sure and you're kind of just dating her and you're just torturing yourself, then what's the point? Like why are you both doing this to each other when You're not sure that this is a relationship that you're going to keep having. Like, are you just comfortable? Are you, is it easier to date her because you don't want to date anybody else in your own city? Like, but it sounds like you want to end up with her and it's okay to like choose her instead of your career if that's who you want to marry,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Sure. Not just on that note, I think you have to make sure that it's a two-way street
mhm.
before you're moving for somebody with the idea of either living with them or living in the same city as them because you're choosing them to start a life with. That's got to be a two-way street, I think.
Well, and so my other question is she is moving to possibly a different city.
Right. So she is her decision clear, or is it maybe it's necessary based on
Right. Is
yeah
her move also necessary for work? And this is like a okay, we're gonna like battle it out for one more year and then we're gonna end up in the same city.
yeah
But this is the crux that every long distance relationship has to end at some point where somebody makes a decision like I'm moving so that we can be in the same city so that we can like move on with our lives together.
yeah
And if neither of you can see each other, yourself or the other person doing that,
then that decision is made for you.
right. And personally, I feel like, yes, you think she's going to move to you, but if you're
Mhm.
personally not willing to move to her, how can you expect that from her?
Right.
So
Right.
both of you have to be willing to like make it work with the other person. Both of you have to be the one who's willing to move to like further your relationship. And you can't get hung up on the details of like, well, she's not moving for me.
Yeah, because it should be that should be a two-way street as well.
Right.
So, in terms of, you know, career or girlfriend, I think depends on your age, perhaps your emotional like relationship maturity,
Mm-hmm.
your emotional maturity, your there's a lot of factors that go into this. I don't think there's a real easy way to paint everybody's situation with one brush,
Right.
but it ultimately, you're right, it comes down to can you see yourself moving for this person on both sides of the relationship? And if so, then yeah, it's okay to start a new career or start a new like it's okay to do that and move for somebody. But if you're hesitant on that, then it's probably the opposite
Right. And
and
it's
move on.
so it's okay to end a relationship with somebody because the timing didn't work out.
Yeah.
Like things happen when they're supposed to for a reason. I know that that sounds like very frou-frou bullshit, but there's a reason when timing doesn't work out that like maybe you weren't ready for marriage or you needed to focus on your career because
Mhm.
honestly, if she's the one, you're going to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all that has
And
to be
you
said. Like
know,
when somebody's the one, you make shit happen for them.
and when somebody is like, "How do you know she's the one?" I think everybody's parents will tell you, uh, "You just know. You just know." And that's that.
And if you're asking the question of like, will I move to be with her? And the answer is yes, then probably yeah. She's close to being the one.
Amen.